we end the season off terrible. Me as a fan, I'm saying, I don't want to hear anything until we kick off, okay? But then we go out and get the ERIQ King, we get Rhett Lashlee, we get Quincy Roche, we add Ed Reed to the chief of staff. We end up flipping Avante Williams. So we got a lot of wins in the offseason. Let me ask you, which out of those names I just named, Ed Reed, Quincy Roche, D'Eriq King, Rhett Lashlee, and Avante Williams deciding to come to Miami instead of Florida, which one was the most shocking to you?
The most shocking to me?
Yeah, the one that you just couldn't believe this happened.
Avante Williams.
Williams?
Yeah, I think that was the one that was the least likely. Okay, like the Rhett Lashlee thing, he was like on the list of, guys who were out there as offensive coordinators. Maybe they want to step up. We're evaluating, okay, where could we go to get a spread type system, someone to run it. So, I mean, was it like Rhett Lashlee was maybe on the list as saying, hey, I want to work at Miami? No, but that wasn't really shocking because Manny had to have been going out and looking at guys to run spreads. D'Eriq King, that fit because he's from Texas. He went to Houston, played against Rhett Lashlee in that offense. And, I mean, Shane Buechele was very good for them, but he's not the athlete that for SMU, that is, when Rhett Lashlee was a coordinator. But D'Eriq King is a much better athlete and player. So if you think about that, look, I did these numbers with a guy who's not as good as you. Now come down here and play in this system with me, and I'll unlock all of the talent that you have in you. Is the pitch to D'Eriq King. So when we went spread, okay, D'Eriq King, that's a thing that fit. Quincy Roche, it was said he was basically waiting to see if D'Eriq King was coming to Miami, and if he came to Miami, then he would follow. Roche, that is. Okay, cool. But yeah, Avante Williams, I always thought that he was going to go to Florida. When he committed to Oregon, nobody thought he was going to go all the way out there. And the fact of the matter is, and the thing that was for me the most important factor is Avante Williams has 2 children. So I figured, look, I mean, if you want to be around, in your kids' lives and everything, which I hope that he does, it's much easier to get to DeLand from Gainesville, which is only about 45 minutes away, than it is from Coral Gables. But the difference was he has a relationship with this staff that's been recruiting him since he was in 8th grade. And he first committed to Miami when Lorenzo Lingard, his cousin, committed as a 10th grader, rising 11th grader. And that connection to the coaching staff of Ephraim Bonda, John Packey, and Manny Diaz over the course of almost 5 years is what won out. I just didn't think it was going to go that way. So I think that's why I say that was the most unexpected move of those, especially for me. And like people are like, oh, you did the reverse jinx of saying that, Avante Williams was going to go to Florida. I really honestly and truly believed that. Then I heard on signing day from a couple of people who would know, they said, you should start writing. And I just said, okay, because I've gotten in a habit of, I try to have very quick reflexes. So anybody that commits, we try to have a welcome to the U piece up on the website, within probably 10 minutes is my initial goal. And then for signing day, I write profiles for every player and everything. And those are about 2,000 words, and you're evaluating the game and embedding the highlights and doing all that stuff. And like I said, I got one text and one phone call before, like in the morning time. And both people who would know said, you should start writing. And I said, okay, cool. And I did. I had already written the Avante Williams is going to Florida piece previous to signing day because that's what I thought was going to happen. So yeah, I think that was the one that I least expected personally, even though some other people, they read the tea leaves or they had something that I didn't, and they understood that situation. They were like, oh yeah, Avante was always coming, and they thought that or knew that. I will admit that I did not think or know that until, I was told that then. But yeah, that was the one of those 5 or 4 that was the most uncertain for me heading into that decision.
Who do you think is going to have the biggest impact out of those guys that we got this offseason?
It's a tie between Rhett Lashlee and D'Eriq King because they're linked hand in hand. Quincy Roche is going to be very good at defensive end, but we do have talent on defense at every level. So he's adding in another elite talent to a unit that has elite talents. So it's like a diamond amongst diamonds. Like, it matters, and I love having him, but it's not changing anything, like in a functional kind of a way or foundational kind of a way. Avonte Williams, very talented, but if you look at the safety room, that's probably the most talented room next to defensive end in the defense. You got multiple guys who are going to be NFL players in the secondary or in at the safety position alone. So could Avonte Williams factor in special teams, maybe play some nickel, maybe on things like that? Sure, but again, is he a game changer day one? No. Rhett Lashlee is going to rebuild this offense. That is my belief, because we've seen the offenses that he's run and the scheme that he employs is very different from what we have seen down here. Excuse my stuttering. And then ERIQ King is the guy to run it, who's averaging 3.5 touchdowns in a game played. Like, what are we? I mean, no, he had 4 per game that he played last year, or 3. But he had 50 touchdowns combined in 2018, 35 passing and 15 rushing, I believe it is. One of a few players to ever have that kind of combination of touchdowns to get to his 50, because we've had players who have passed for 50 touchdowns in a year. But he's a dynamic talent, the likes of which Miami has seldom, if ever, seen at quarterback. I mean, if you think back to a guy like a Derek Crudup in the early 2000s. I think he and I were freshman brothers back in 2000. He was a guy who was a dynamic dual threat guy, but he wasn't the starter. He wasn't the guy that we built things around. And no disrespect to Mr. Crudup, he's not as talented or as good as ERIQ King is from high school and college. Even though Derek Crudup was great at Deerfield Beach High School, it's a different level of player. So now you have a new scheme with a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback handpicked to run that. It has to be the combination of those two guys having the biggest impact for this team, again, if we're going to move forward and be successful to the level that Miami should be.
All right, guys, we got Cam Underwood, managing editor of State of the U, on the line with us.